Quick, press W to keep the aircraft from sliding on the deck. Next, ask the ground crew to place wheel chocks. Press the / key to open the communications menu. Press F8, ground crew. Press F4, wheel chocks. Press F1, place wheel chocks. Once the crew has placed the chocks, you can release the wheel brakes and press spacebar to begin the training. This training mission follows the procedures described on the flight manual of the real thing, adapted for use on the A4E of DCS. The step numbers, when provided, corresponds to those of the NATOPS manual, and are given to allow easy reference to it. For brevity, we will skip most of the steps of the interior inspection, only performing those that are absolutely necessary on DCS. The checklist includes the following sections. Interior inspection. Before starting the engine. Starting the engine. Post-start checklist. Press spacebar to begin. If the cockpit interior is too dark, activate the flashlight with left Alt plus L. If the yellow cross cursor is not visible, press left Alt plus left Shift plus C to make it appear. Also, you can press spacebar to cut short long texts, in case you are repeating the mission. Interior inspection. 2. Emergency speed brake knob, normal. The emergency speed brake control is a push-pull knob located at the aft end of the left-hand console, and can be used to open or close the speed brakes in the event of electrical failure, or failure of one of the speed brake control valve solenoids. The emergency speed brake control knob is held in a neutral position by a spring and must be pulled up or pushed down to open or close the speed brakes, respectively. 4. Oxygen switch, on, check flow, then off. When the oxygen switch is turned on, oxygen is delivered from the supply system to the oxygen receptacle located on the oxygen and anti-G panel on the left console. The pilot's supply tube is plugged into the receptacle to allow the oxygen to flow to the oxygen mask regulator, installed just below the pilot's face mask. 5. AFCS standby switch, off. The Automatic Flight Control System, AFCS, is an autopilot system which can maintain heading, altitude and pitch and bank angles, and perform a coordinated turn to a pre-selected heading. When this switch is placed in the off position, all toggle switches on the panel return to the off position. 6. AFCS aileron trim switch, norm, not implemented. This switch is usually in the norm position, but may be placed in the EMER position to provide aileron trim after the AFCS is disengaged, if aileron trim is not available in norm. 7. Emergency fuel transfer switch, off. In case of a failure of the transfer pump, the wing fuel switch located on the engine control panel provides for the transfer of fuel by wing tank pressurization. Moving the switch to the EMER trans position allows engine compressor bleed air to pressurize the wing tank. Fuel is then transferred to the fuselage tank through the pressure fueling line. 9. Drop tank switch, off. Set the switch to off, with a right click. 10. Radar selector switch, off. The APG-53 radar system provides search or mapping capabilities for navigational purposes, 2 modes of terrain clearance for obstacle avoidance, and air-to-ground slant range for weapons delivery. Automatic fire control is not provided. Operating controls are provided on the radar control panel at the right console, on a small radar switch panel near the bottom center of the instrument panel, and around the perimeter of the scope mounted in the instrument panel. 12. Fuel control switch, primary. The engine fuel control is a hydromechanical control that has 2 modes of operation. Primary, where it senses inlet air temperature, burner pressure, high pressure compressor speed, and throttle position. When the throttle setting is changed and while accommodating to a new steady-state fuel rate, the fuel control varies the fuel flow between the limiting values established by safe tailpipe temperature and mixture combustibility. Manual is a backup mode, where the fuel control compensates automatically only for variations in altitude and airspeed. 13. Manual fuel shutoff control lever, EMER off, then normal, guard down. The fuel system incorporates a manually operated fuel shutoff control lever located outboard of the left-hand console. Its EMER off position stops all fuel flow from the fuel system to the engine. A spring-loaded lift-type guard is provided to prevent inadvertent movement of the lever to EMER off. To ensure complete fuel shutoff, the control lever must be moved fully aft into the EMER off detent. 19. Master exterior light switch, off. The master exterior light switch, on the outboard side of the throttle grip, controls power to the wing, tail, and fuselage lights. The switch has a forward on position, a center off position, and an aft momentary on position. The master exterior light switch is spring-loaded from the aft to the center position, providing a means of signaling with the exterior lights. 22. Nose wheel steering switch, norm. The nose wheel steering system is operational only when the aircraft is on the ground. Steering may be engaged by actuation of the stick control button. When engaged, the nose wheel position is controlled by rudder pedal displacement, with a maximum of 45 degrees either side of center. 25. Accelerometer, push to reset. An accelerometer with 3 indicating pointers, registers and records positive and negative G-loads. One pointer moves in the direction of the G-load being a 26. Airspeed indicator, 0, set. A combination airspeed indicator and Mach meter is located on the instrument panel. The airspeed portion of the dial is fixed in position, and is calibrated from 80 to 650 knots. The Mach meter scale is a rotating disc, marked from 0.5 to 2.9, turning beneath the airspeed dial. Only a portion of the disc can be seen through a cutout in the airspeed dial. Airspeed and corresponding Mach number are indicated simultaneously by a single needle pointer. On the Mach number disc is a movable index which is used to set a Mach reference by depressing and turning a set knob on the lower left corner of the instrument case. On the edge of the airspeed dial is an airspeed index pointer, which is adjustable through a range of 80 to 145 knots merely by turning the set knob. (27) Vertical velocity indicator. 0. A vertical velocity indicator reflects the rate of change in atmospheric pressure as the aircraft climbs or descends. This rate of change is represented in 100-foot graduations between 0 and 1,000 feet of ascent or descent, and in 500-foot graduations between 1,000 to 6,000 feet. 29. Radar altimeter, off. The APN-141 radar altimeter provides accurate altitude from 0 to 5,000 feet. The indicator dial face is marked in 10-foot increments up to 200 feet, 50-foot increments from 200 to 600 feet, 100-foot increments from 600 to 2,000 feet, and 500-foot increments from 2,000 to 5,000 feet. A control knob on the front of the indicator controls power to the indicator and is used for setting the low limit indexer. On the real aircraft, this knob also provides a push-to-test feature, but that is not simulated. 30. Emergency stores jettison select switch, as desired. This switch provides selection of the external stores to be jettisoned when the emergency stores release handle is pulled. WNG selects the wing stations, AL selects all stations. 31. All armament switches should be off. A. Guns, on the ready position, electric power is provided to the twin internal 20mm guns, leaving them ready to fire. Set to safe. B. Bomb arm switch. Arms the bomb's fuses, nose and tail or just tail. Placing the switch and off leaves the bombs unarmed and they won't explode if released. C. Stations. Select which stations will be released on the next attack. D. Weapon function selector knob. Used to set the sight according to the weapon type. Rockets, GMUN arm, spray tank. The A4E could be fitted with an 85-gallon tank for spraying chemical weapons. Was never used in combat. Labs, low-altitude bombing system, bombs and guided missiles, including sidewinders. E. Master arm switch, off. All armament circuits are controlled by this switch, with the exception of gun charging and emergency jettisoning of external stores. The master armament switch must be in the on position to energize armament circuits. 42. Interior lights control panel, as desired. A. Set console lighting, by rotating this knob clockwise. A toggle switch with 3 positions, bright, dim, and medium, controls the intensity of the red console floodlights. B. Set instruments lighting by rotating this knob. C. Set white floodlights by rotating this knob clockwise. 43. Emergency generator bypass switch. Normal. The emergency generator is carried in a compartment in the lower right-hand side of the forward fuselage. When this generator is released into the airstream, a variable pitch propeller drives the generator at approximately 12,000 RPM to provide power to the primary bus. The emergency generator bypass switch, labeled normal-bypass, is located in the right-hand console. If the emergency generator is extended, placing this switch in bypass allows the pilot to return to main generator operation, provided the main generator power has been regained. 53. Exterior lights control panel. As desired. The exterior lights control panel, on the right console, contains switches for control of the exterior lights. A. Probe light, off. The air refueling probe light is located on the right-hand intake outboard lip. B. Taxi light, off. The taxi light is installed on the right-hand main landing gear door. C. Anti-collision beacons, set to off. D. Fuselage lights, set to bright. These are semi-flush, white, fuselage wing lights, located under the leading edge of each wing. E. Navigation lights, wing and tail, set to bright. F. Navigation lights mode, set to steady. The A4E also has angle of attack approach lights, mounted in the leading edge of the left wing. The approach light circuit is controlled by the tail hook switch. The A4E electrical system does not include batteries. Also, there is no APU to provide starting air. Thus, an external electrical power supply and a source of starter air are required for ground starting the engine. 1. External ground power. Connect. Bring up the communications menu, with the / key. Select F8, ground crew. F2, ground electric power. F1, turn power on.
Chief, turn on the ground power.
Copy. Ground power is now on.
2. Master press to test. Check. Press and hold the master test button to check APC, gen, angle of attack indexer, laws, wheels, fuel, fire, OBST, ladder caution, pilot advisory, armament advisory, radar altimeter, oil low, lights and circuits. The fuel quantity and liquid oxygen quantity indicators will rotate counterclockwise. The liquid oxygen warning light will come on as indicator passes through 1 liter. 3. Throttle. Off. Check that both the virtual aircraft throttle and your real HOTAS throttle are at the off position. 4. Engine starter switch. Depress to start. When the switch is depressed to start, the starter air supply solenoid valve opens, allowing compressed air from the gas turbine compressor to rotate the starter. A holding relay retains the switch in the start position. When engine speed reaches approximately 50% RPM, a centrifugal switch opens, allowing the engine starter switch to pop up, thus stopping the air supply to the starter. Manually pulling out the engine starter switch will also stop the starter air supply, not simulated. 5. At 5% RPM. Throttle to ignition, by right-clicking on it. The ignition switch is actuated by movement of the throttle outboard from the off position into ignition position. 6. At 15% RPM. Throttle to idle, right-click again. This opens a fuel cutoff valve in the fuel control unit, providing fuel flow to the engine and allowing it to start. Seven. Stabilized idle RPM. 56 to 58%, at 20 degrees Celsius. Light off should occur within 20 seconds after the throttle is moved outboard to start the ignition cycle and is indicated by a rise in EGT after the throttle is moved to the idle position. Normally, the engine should be stabilized at idle RPM within 45 seconds after depressing the engine starting button. Nine. External electrical power and starting air. Disconnect. Bring up the communications menu with the / key. Select
G, turn off the
F8,
ground
ground
power.
crew. F2, ground electric power.
Copy.
F2, turn power off.
Ground power is now off.
If light off is satisfactory and engine speed is stabilized with the throttle at idle, check the following. 1. RPM. Idle at 56 to 58% at 20 degrees Celsius. 2. EGT. Check 200 to 340 degrees Celsius. 3. Fuel boost, light out, on advisories panel. 4. Oil pressure, 35 to 50 psi. 5. Oil quantity indicator, light out. The electronic equipment needs a warm-up time, before we are able to do their pre-flight checks. So, we will turn them to standby now, so they can warm up while we do other checks. A. Turn the navigation computer to standby, for a 2 minutes warm-up. Post-start checklist. When electrical power becomes available after starting engine, check following items. 1. Seat, adjust, not simulated. 2. UHF function switch, set to D/R+G. Unfortunately, at the moment the radio is not functional. 3. IFF master switch, set to standby, not simulated. 4. TACAN switch, set to receive for a 3 minutes warm-up, then set to transmit receive. 5. AFCS, set to standby. The automatic flight control system is designed to provide pilot relief from routine control of the aircraft. The AFCS will maintain heading, altitude and pitch and bank angles, and perform a coordinated turn to a pre-selected heading without use of the pilot control stick. Placing this switch to standby provides electrical power to the AFCS for warm-up. The system should be in standby at least 90 seconds prior to engaging the stability augmentation switch or the AFCS main engage switch. 7. Press and hold the master test button to check APC, ECM, angle of attack indexer, wheels, labs, WAS, IFF, fire, radar, pilot advisory, armament advisory, radar altimeter, oil low, lights and circuits. The fuel quantity and liquid oxygen quantity indicators will rotate counterclockwise. The liquid oxygen warning light will come on as indicator passes through 1 liter. 9. Fuel quantity, check internal and external readings. The fuel quantity indicator indicates the total fuel available in pounds multiplied by 1,000. The range of indication is from 0 to 6,400 pounds. A toggle switch labeled Fuel EXT is located on the instrument panel for checking external fuel load. The switch is spring-loaded to the fuel position where it displays the internal fuel quantity. External fuel quantity will be indicated when the switch is held to the EXT position, with a left click, until the indicator needle stabilizes. 10. Check oxygen quantity. Take note. Oxygen is supplied by a vacuum bottle liquid oxygen converter mounted in a vented compartment in the aft fuselage section. The bottle contains 10 liters of liquid oxygen when serviced to capacity. It should be noted that although 100% oxygen is used at all times, duration is greater at high altitudes. 10 liters lasts 60 hours at 40,000 feet, down to 7 hours at sea level. 12. Standby ADI, erect, off flag not visible. Adjust by left click and hold, and then turn the mouse wheel. The ANAS M01 is one of the earliest Doppler navigation computers, used in conjunction with the ANAPN-153 Doppler navigation radar. It was used not only on the A4, but also on the A6 and A7. It is a primitive unit that can handle only 2 waypoints, and its precision is a bit low, just degrees and minutes, but it is much better than aircraft of barely a decade earlier. 1. Turn the function selector knob to test. The computer will do a pre-solved navigation solution, and show it on the navigation displays and on the bearing, distance and heading indicator. 2. Turn the BDHI switch to the nav computer position, with a right click, so that its pointers show data from the navigation computer instead of the TACAN. The test values should be: wind speed indicates 223.6 plus minus 2.5 knots. Wind direction indicates 0914 plus minus 1.5 degree. Latitude present position shows south integration. Longitude present position shows east integration. BDHI number 2 pointer, the one with double bar, indicates 30 plus minus 1 degree right. BDHI number 1 pointer, single bar, indication depends on present position and destination data set in. 3. Turn function selector switch knob to standby. 4. Turn function selector switch knob to D2. Using the slew knobs, set in latitude and longitude destination counters to a destination. If the destination is the starting point, insert present position coordinates. For this training mission, let's set as D2 the coordinates of Kobultai Air Base, 41 degrees 55 minutes north, 41 degrees 52 minutes east. Turn the knobs by left click holding, and then turn the mouse wheel. Now, turn function selector switch knob to D1. Using the slew knobs, set in latitude and longitude destination counters to the D1 destination. For this example, let's set D1 to Batumi the Air Base, 41 degrees 36 minutes north, 41 degrees 36 minutes east. Set in latitude and longitude of present position on present position counters using push to set knobs. On DCS, these coordinates are already entered. 7. Set in magnetic variation with mechanical knobs. Variations in degrees and tenths of a degree. For DCS, the value for magnetic variation are 6 degrees east for Caucasus, 12 degrees east for Nevada, 8 degrees east for Normandy, and 1.6 degrees east for Persian Gulf. 8. Set in wind direction and velocity. Use climb winds. Note, if the Doppler radar is to be used alongside the navigation computer, then step 8 need not be set in. This function will be automatically computed during flight. 9. Leave function selector knob in standby. Navigation radar check. 1. Turn selector switch knob to the test position. The memory light should illuminate. The ground speed dial should read 121 plus minus 5 knots, and the drift angle dial should read 0 plus minus 2 degrees. 2. Turn selector knob to standby. Prior to takeoff, turn selector knob to the on land or on sea position, depending upon the terrain to be flown over. 16. All flight controls. Free, full travel proper movement. Move the control stick left to right and front to back, checking that the control surfaces move accordingly. Move the rudder pedals left and right and confirm that the rudder moves accordingly. 17. Check flight devices operation. A. Flaps, full open. Check the extension looking at the gauge. Use the HOTAS or the F key. B. Speed brakes, open. Use the HOTAS or the B key. C. Hook, down. The cockpit lever is not clickable, so use either your HOTAS or the left Alt plus G keys. D. Spoilers, up, then cycle with throttle. The spoilers are wing-top deployable surfaces used to reduce landing distance. They retract automatically when RPM is over 70%, to cater for a filter trap. To perform this check, extend the spoilers with the engine at idle, then hold the wheel brakes and increase RPM to 70%. To check the automatic retraction, use the HOTAS or the S key. 18. Retract flight devices. A. Flaps, set at half extension. Check the extension looking at the gauge. Use the HOTAS or the F key. C. Hook, up. The cockpit lever is not clickable, so use either D. Spoilers, down. Use the HOTAS or the S key. 19. Rudder trim, check and set at 0. Turn the knob while checking the left gauge. Horizontal stabilizer, set. Adjust using the trim hat on the HOTAS, as follows. A. Basic trim at 0 to 10 knots as excess end speed. Full flaps, 7.5 degrees nose up, half flaps, 7 degrees nose up. B. Basic trim at 11 to 40 knots as excess end speed. Full or half flaps, 6 degrees nose up. Aileron, stick centered, check both left and right trim. Adjust using the trim hat on the HOTAS. 23. Drop tank pressure, on. Fuel transfer from the drop tanks to the integral wing tank and fuselage tank is effected by means of drop tank pressurization. Placing the drop tank transfer switch on the engine control panel and press, directs engine compressor bleed air to the drop tanks. Once the tanks are pressurized, the flow of fuel from the drop tanks to the wing tank is controlled by the dual float pilot valve in the wing tank, which stops the transfer of fuel when the wing tank is full or allows it to continue when space is available. 24. Drop tank pressure, off. Placing the drop tank transfer switch in off de-energizes the drop tank air. 25. Emergency transfer, check. Emergency transfer of fuel from the wing tanks to the fuselage tank is possible. The wing fuel switch provides for the transfer of fuel by wing tank pressurization. Moving the switch to the EMER position closes the wing tank pressure and vent valves, allowing engine compressor bleed air to pressurize the wing tank. Fuel is then transferred to the fuselage tank through the pressure fueling line. Congratulations, this concludes the after-engine light-off section of the carrier cold start procedure. The aircraft is now ready to taxi. You have successfully finished this training mission. On the next mission we will learn the taxi and carrier launch procedures. For now, please exit the training by pressing the escape key.